So today I'd like to take some time to reflect on what we did last year and also introduce what we have planned for 2024. We had 11 meetings in 2023. The Intercontinental think tank meeting got up and running in February when we took a deep dive into the role of women in disaster preparedness. From March onwards, we celebrated a United Nations Day at each meeting. We raised awareness of days that celebrated happiness, Mother Earth, biological diversity, and ways to combat desertification and drought. Sand and dust storms also. We also acknowledged Humanitarian Day and days that covered food loss and waste, rural women, violence against women, and human rights. Who knew there were so many UN days to celebrate, and we didn't even cover them all? One of the aims of the biennium was for Zontians from the global north to meet and talk with Zontians from the global south. We invited members from around the world to share their climate-related challenges in their countries and what actions could be taken to help build a better world for women and girls. These presentations triggered some marvelous discussions in our breakout rooms. Many thanks to all of our speakers for opening our eyes to the many challenges and opportunities. Climate change has impacted all of us. Helen Bowie in New Zealand showed the devastation caused by Cyclone Gabrielle. Aba Amisa, I hope I say her last name right, Kwainu from Accra in Ghana explained that Accra is below sea level and is severely impacted by flooding, destroying markets and livelihoods. Annette de Rosa in Switzerland described the melting glaciers, avalanches, landslides, and storms, the role of the Army, and how fallout shelters from the Cold War were being used as shelters from the impacts of climate change. Anastasia Gbem in Nigeria showed how millions of people were impacted by floods, and nearly half the country was at risk of flooding. Hasna Mudud in Bangladesh reflected on the floods in her country, concerns with plastic pollution, and how Zontians can use their influence to advocate. Angela Broekman in the USA highlighted how women evacuated to shelters during cyclones were subjected to violence by strangers, and how there are multiple extreme weather events in the USA simultaneously. Shanaz Nathani shared the problems of droughts, floods, and landslides in Sri Lanka, and the importance of having women involved in disaster preparedness. Judith Ainsworth talked about unprecedented heat, fires, and flooding in Canada, and the risks to the boreal forests. Wildfires in 2023 spread smoke into the USA and even reached Europe. Erica Lavia spoke of the cyclones, coastal erosion, and rising sea levels displacing families, and a recent heat wave impacted 90% of India. Mari de los Santos and Bing Karian outlined the changing weather patterns in the Philippines and the legislation developed to address climate change and what it takes to be a responsible human being. Marissa Mason-Smith in the Bahamas highlighted the rise in sea level and ocean temperatures that increase their vulnerability to hurricanes. Karen Lang described the increasing numbers of fires, droughts, floods, storms, and landslides that hit Germany, and how disaster lighthouses were being built to protect the population. Christine Trenorden in Australia talked about the heat, floods, and droughts, and the role of Indigenous women in disaster preparedness. They all talked about climate policies in their countries and the need to involve more women in decision-making. We also learned more about Zonta's roles in the United Nations. Pamela Morgan shared what she does as Zonta's representative at the United Nations, and also the chair of NGO CSW 68, or co-chair, excuse me. Joan Kabayambi became Zonta's representative at the UN Environment Program based in Nairobi in the middle of the year and shared her experiences so far. Farida Lukmanji and Julie Trone, that's me, teamed up to explore food and water insecurity, and members were in awe of Farida's work with She Grows the World. During the 16 days of activism, Pia and Karen showed us how climate change contributes to violence against women. All of these talks are all on our working page, so why not revisit them? And I'm going to add, let's share them with other Zontians and community members. We wanted to know how members felt about climate change, what they were doing, and to share the ideas so that we can continue to improve Zonta Says Now. So we surveyed members, club presidents, and district governors and shared the findings at the October meeting. We are using the feedback to guide the development of our future resources. We also surveyed think tank members to find meeting dates and times that would help more members attend think tank meetings in daylight hours. We have made a list of next year's meeting dates and registration links, and this is on our working page also. Throughout the year, members have used their voices and raised awareness of Zonta Says Now in their clubs, areas, districts, caucuses, and unions. Our think tank materials provided a lot for members to talk about with their families, friends, and co-workers. The virtual art gallery is designed to let Zontians share how they feel about climate change and gender equality. We have received the first crop of entries and have extended the submission date to the end of February so that we can launch the gallery on Mother Earth Day, April 22nd. Each month, Zonta Says Now activities feature e-newsletters from Zonta International, and the latest edition of the Zontian featured a 2-page spread on achieving climate justice. I'm going to pass to Bobbee, who's going to continue our reflection.
Okay. Throughout the year, we expanded our knowledge. We had all heard about the Paris climate agreement, but how many of us had heard about the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, or the High Seas Treaty, or the Global Biodiversity Framework? Have we even considered the impacts of desert, land degradation, and drought on women, or how gender bias influences outcomes? We suggested a number of books to read that could expand our knowledge, and reports relating to girls and child marriage that were very illuminating. However, we only recommend reading the summary report of the IPCC Climate Change 2023 synthesis report because it is over 8,000 pages long. Anybody who reads the whole thing can give us a report. The Sustainable Development Goals were developed in 2015 with the view for them to be achieved by 2030. We're halfway now through this time period, and the gender snapshot showed that we still have a lot more work to do if we're going to get anywhere near achieving those goals before 2030. We learned why the Universal Declaration of Human Rights now includes the right to a healthy environment. And we learned of the gender-related outcomes of COP28, held in Dubai. We also created resources, the first of which was our new logo, which headquarters assisted us in creating a logo that's related to Zonta Says No, but different and very distinct. We also have new information on Zonta Says Now on the Zonta International website, on which I just Googled right before I got on this call. And sure enough, in the search bar, if you type in Zonta Says Now, you will pull up all of our information. including the Zonta Says Now fact sheet, which has about 46 references for you to look at. And the Zonta Says Now leaflets that we've designed, including the framework for action and the frequently asked questions. In addition to that, we've created action guides, a list of, the framework for action worksheet is there as well. And the action guides include raising awareness and disaster preparedness, and it's all there for you to find on the website. We also had a go at developing a couple of quizzes to help members learn about plastics in a fun way. The first quiz focused on microplastics in clothing, and the second showed the progress of the Global Treaty on Plastic Pollution. We're mindful that Zonta Says Now is identified in the latest version of the strategic plan as Zonta's campaign to address climate justice at local, national, and international levels. And we do take this very seriously. We work from the Zonta Says Now communication plan that is constantly evolving. And each month, we send an emailed newsletter to remind think tank members of what is happening in Zonta Says Now. We keep members informed about everything we do through our working page on the District 23 Zonta Says Now website, where you can find all the slides and videos from meetings like this one. Behind the scenes, there's a lot happening as well. Remember, we're all volunteers and we're all learning by doing. And in 2023, we certainly learned a lot. You can see from our governance structure that the Zonta Says Now working group reports to the international board via a liaison team that consists of the Zonta International president, the CEO, and the events and communications specialists at headquarters. And Carol in particular, but all of us are grateful for each other in the working group that keeps Zonta Says Now on track and provides the human energy we need for this campaign. This year, we've seen teams start up to oversee the development of the virtual art gallery and our social media presence, as well as a couple of ad hoc teams to develop the action guides, surveys, NGO CSW 68 presentation that we will be doing in March, and to explore potential alliances. It's been quite a journey, and it would not be complete without the members of the wonderful Intercontinental think tank. So thank you to every one of you for your support in 2023. And so what is next? Julie will share with us.
Thank you, Bobbee. We have started planning for 2024 with each month aligned to an event in the UN calendar. Meeting times alternate so that everyone in the world can attend a meeting in daylight hours at least 3 times during the year. Be aware that next month our guest speaker will be from We Do, and that our presentation on 17 March at the NGO CSW will replace our think tank meeting. We have 4 priorities until the end of the biennium. We are preparing the NGO CSW presentation on 17 March. This, like I said, this will replace our March think tank meeting. We need to get as many entries for the virtual art gallery before the end of February so we can launch on the 22nd of April, Earth Day. We need to repeat our member survey to see if what we are doing is making a difference, and we are aiming to do this in April. We will wrap up this biennium at the convention in Brisbane, Australia. We have prepared a guide for environmentally responsible air travel, but more about that later. One of our key activities of this biennium has been to encourage Zontians and their communities to be disaster ready. We developed the action guide and will develop more materials to go with it that we can use at the Zonta Says Now Disaster Readiness Workshop at convention. So we are already thinking ahead to the next biennium. How would you like to add your skills and humor to help Zonta Says Now grow? Would you like to add your voice to the working group or be part of a team? Please let us know if you want to help host a meeting, be a speaker, or have any ideas to help us achieve climate justice so we can build a better world for women and girls. And